The first sign wasn't noise, it was the absence of it. No alarms, no alerts, no rising tension in the air, just a strange, unnatural stillness, as if the night itself was holding its breath. Deep within the northern defense grid of a nation built on constant vigilance, systems that had never failed began to falter. Not collapse, not shut down, but hesitate. A fraction of a second, a delay so small it shouldn't matter, but in war, fractions decide everything. Then it hit. Sirens exploded across the cities, tearing through the silence like a warning too late. Lights vanished. Streets emptied in seconds. Doors slammed, footsteps echoed, and entire populations moved on instinct alone. Run, hide, survive. Above them, the sky came alive. Defense systems reacted instantly, launching interceptors in rapid succession. Streaks of light shot upward, cutting through the darkness, chasing threats that should have been predictable, trackable, stoppable. But something was wrong. The sky wasn't behaving the way it always had. Flashes appeared and disappeared before the eye could follow. Targets shifted, vanished, reappeared somewhere else. Interceptors locked on and missed, not because they failed, but because they were already too late. It was as if the attack wasn't moving through time. It was skipping past it. Within minutes, confusion replaced control. The most advanced systems in the region, designed to calculate, predict, and destroy incoming threats, were suddenly reacting instead of deciding. For the first time, they were behind. And in that terrifying realization, one truth began to take shape. This wasn't just another strike. This wasn't just escalation. Something new had entered the battlefield. Something faster than detection, faster than response, faster than thought itself. Time, the one advantage every defense had ever relied on, was gone. For years, it didn't look like power was growing. It looked like pressure was working. Sanctions tightened like a slow choke. Economies strained. Diplomacy turned colder. Surveillance intensified from every direction. To the outside world, it seemed like a nation being contained, watched, restricted. But real shifts in power rarely happen in the open. They happen where no one is looking. Behind reinforced doors and buried deep beneath layers of earth and concrete, something else was unfolding. Not loudly, not quickly, but with precision. Underground networks expanded, quietly, methodically. Facilities designed not just to survive attacks, but to disappear from them. Entire programs moved into spaces where satellites couldn't see, and where time itself felt disconnected from the outside world. Missile development didn't stop. It accelerated. Engineers weren't just improving range or payloads anymore. They were asking a different question. What if speed itself could become the weapon? What if the battlefield could be changed, not by power, but by removing the enemy's ability to react? At the same time, doctrine was evolving. Old strategies were being rewritten, not centered on matching strength for strength, but on breaking the rhythm of modern warfare entirely. Because matching your enemy keeps you in their game. Outpacing them ends it. And at the center of this quiet transformation, one creation began to take shape, not announced with noise, not revealed with spectacle, but built with purpose. Fata 2, not just another missile in an arsenal, not just an upgrade in capability, a message, a weapon designed with a singular idea in mind. Don't challenge the shield, make the shield meaningless, not by overpowering it, but by moving so fast, so unpredictably, that it never gets the chance to exist. On the other side of the battlefield stood a system built on certainty, layer upon layer of defense, engineered with precision and tested under fire. Radars scanning every angle, algorithms calculating trajectories in milliseconds, interceptors ready to launch at the first sign of danger. It wasn't just advanced, it was trusted. For years, it had done exactly what it was designed to do. Rockets rose, and were met in the sky. Threats appeared, and were neutralized before impact. The system didn't just protect, it reassured. People lived under it, planned under it, slept under it, because they believed in it. Every successful interception reinforced that belief. Every failed attack strengthened the idea that control had been achieved, that no matter what came, there was always a response ready, always a solution already calculated. It created something powerful. Not just security, but certainty. The sense that chaos could be managed. That war, no matter how unpredictable, could be reduced to a system of inputs and outcomes. But certainty is fragile. It doesn't crack gradually. It doesn't warn you before it breaks. It holds, and then suddenly, it's gone. Because modern warfare doesn't erode confidence over time. It waits, and then it shatters it in a single moment, when the system that was supposed to respond realizes it no longer can. It didn't begin with the strike that would change everything. It began with noise. At first, it looked familiar, almost routine. Sirens flared, radar screens filled, and the sky lit up with incoming signals. Rockets rose in waves, dozens at a time, arcing toward their targets like a storm that had been seen before. Defense systems responded instantly. Interceptors launched. Calculations ran. Targets were assigned and reassigned in fractions of a second. But then the pattern shifted. More launches. Different angles. Unusual timing. And then lower. Drones slipped into the picture, flying beneath traditional tracking thresholds. Small, fast, erratic. Some hovered. Some darted. Some simply existed long enough to be noticed, and then vanished. Now the sky wasn't just crowded. It was layered. Threats from above. Threats from below. Different speeds. Different paths. No single rhythm to follow. To an outside observer it looked like chaos. But inside the system it felt different. It felt deliberate. Every incoming object forced a decision. Every decision consumed time. Every second stretched thinner as the volume increased. Track this. Ignore that. Prioritize here. Recalculate there. The system wasn't failing. It was being occupied. Because this wasn't about destruction. Not yet. It was about pressure. Overload the sensors. Divide the focus. Stretch the response across too many directions at once. And when a system is forced to look everywhere, it inevitably misses something. So while interceptors chased dozens of visible threats, locking, firing, correcting, something else moved. Unseen, unprioritized, unchallenged, and by the time it mattered, the system had already chosen wrong. Then it happened. Not with a build-up, not with a warning. Just arrival. No visible arc cutting across the sky. No rising signature for radar to follow. No countdown between detection and impact. One moment, nothing. The next, something was already there. A single object, moving at a speed the system wasn't built to understand. Not just fast, but bars ahead. Ahead of tracking, ahead of calculation, ahead of response itself. This was the moment the battlefield changed. Fata 2 had arrived. It didn't behave like anything that came before it. There was no predictable trajectory to map, no stable path to intercept. It didn't climb and fall. It didn't announce its direction. It moved and then it moved again. Adjusting, shifting, deciding mid-flight. Every rule the system relied on, every assumption built into years of defense planning, was suddenly useless. Because those systems were designed for threats that followed logic. This didn't. It didn't follow a path. It didn't obey expectations. And most importantly, it didn't give time. Interceptors launched, but not toward certainty, toward guesses. Calculations updated, then failed, then updated again. The system was no longer predicting, it was chasing. But you can't chase something that has already arrived. In that single, irreversible moment, the reality became impossible to ignore. The defenses weren't being overwhelmed. They weren't being outnumbered. They were being Xerxes outpaced. Not by force, but by a weapon that had already moved beyond the limits of time itself. The impact didn't begin with the explosion. It began with the silence just before it. A fraction of a second where systems still tried to understand what they had already missed. Then, everything ignited. A critical site, built to endure pressure and protected by layers of defense, erupted into flames. Fire climbed into the night sky, thick and unstoppable, turning darkness into a burning signal visible for miles. Emergency protocols activated instantly, units mobilized, communication surged, but clarity never arrived, because no one had seen it coming clearly enough to explain it. The system searched for answers. Trajectory, origin, interception point. But there was no clean data. Only fragments. Only aftermath. And in that confusion something far more dangerous than the fire began to spread. Realization. If something could move that fast, slip through that precisely, bypass everything designed to stop it, then this wasn't an exception. It was proof. Proof that the shield could be touched. Proof that protection had limits. proof that the rules had changed without warning. The damage on the ground was visible: flames, smoke, disruption. But the real impact was invisible. It settled into command centers, into decision rooms, into the minds of those responsible for defense. Because this wasn't just a successful strike. It was a message delivered with absolute clarity. We can reach what you thought was unreachable. Not a strike meant to destroy everything. A strike designed to show that it could, and once that truth exists, it cannot be contained. The videos spread like wildfire. Short clips of night skies ripped apart by flashes of fire. Streams of footage claiming aircraft destroyed, missile trajectories intercepted, or not. Narratives of supremacy surged across social media, news outlets, encrypted channels. Verification lagged behind imagination. It didn't matter what was real. What mattered was what people believed. Civilians wondered if anywhere was safe. Military commanders questioned every assumption they had relied on for decades. Governments recalculated strategies in real time, unsure if their strongest defenses were now irrelevant. Fear moved faster than any missile could. Each unverified claim became a weapon, each doubt a tactical advantage. The hypersonic strike had not only broken defenses, it had shattered confidence. In this war, the fastest weapon wasn't made of steel or explosives. It was uncertainty itself. By dawn, the battlefield wasn't just scarred. It was rewritten. Maps looked the same. Troop counts were unchanged. Yet the rules of engagement, the very logic of war, had shifted. Defense systems that once promised security now only offered hope. Seconds, once ample, had become eternity. Escalation no longer crept. It struck like lightning. The red line had been crossed. Technology now outran tradition. Speed now outran strategy. Deterrence, the fragile bedrock of conflict, wavered under the weight of a single hypersonic strike. The question no longer revolved around strength, might, or numbers. It revolved around Severus who could act first. In a world where hesitation meant disaster, the strike didn't just destroy, it announced the future. From this night forward, every war, every conflict, would be measured not in hours or days, but in the speed of fear.